Chapter 18. She had a great day wandering around with her little bud. She started by walking in an ever-expanding circles around the cottage, the little bud following and chatting to her about the environment, the dome, the plants, and whatever topic she seemed interested in. She would ask about something, and it would simply download a relevant information package, making it a sudden expert on that topic. It cheerfully shared endless stories and factoids, and she listened. In between, her own thoughts on how incredible this place was and how lucky she was to be here. She found a tree that had branches, each with different colored leaves. And when she got closer, she realized that there were different fruit as well. "Is this edible?" she asked as she reached for a pink bulb-shaped fruit. Query: "Nearly everything here is, although not all is intended for consumption. But all the fruit on that tree is edible. That tree was part of an experiment that had been to make a single tree that could provide every nutrient needed for an island somewhere in the Pacific centuries ago." She tried a bite from each of the fruits. There were many trees and shrubs around that bore some fruit and edibles. She would not starve. She noticed with time strange flight patterns with the birds. "What's going on with the way the birds are flying?" Query: "The birds follow magnetic fields that flow in relation to the gravitational fields." "What gravitational field?" she asked, with the red fruit dripping down her cheek. "Gravity generated by the black hole is conducted through the station to provide gravitational pull when needed. The containment factor produces a magnetic field. Sometimes when Jupiter is active and shoots out charged particles, there are visible auroras both on Saturn's poles and outside the dome, following the magnetic lines." Assuming she was interested in visual events. "I would like to see that," she said, and tried to imagine how many wondrous things she had to explore, outside the dome as well as within. The day was quick to pass, filled with so many interesting discoveries. She was feeling very tired by the time they got back to the little cottage, so she had no problem falling asleep. Next day was much the same. She went even further off, choosing a direction and heading off in that general direction, but making sure to be back before she got too tired. Always on alert for a summons from Oldest. But the call never came, and her curiosity drove her further and further. After a few more days, she decided to walk over to the enormous tree that loomed over the area. It reminded her oddly of a giant bonsai tree. She estimated that it would take more than a day to go there and back, so she packed what she thought she would need. The walk over was filled with things to explore. There were hills and valleys within which were unique vegetations and architectures, paths and houses that were well fitted with its local environment. She stopped a moment here and there, but tried to keep going to reach the tree before the lights went out. The notebook she had found in the cabin was quickly filling up with notes and sketches. There was so much to take in. She reached the tree just as the light was beginning to dim. The massive roots rose out of the ground in places. Some parts reached high enough that she could walk under it without bending. She found a cozy-looking place nearby one of those and put her stuff down. The little bud was following her at a polite distance, having depleted the last topics she had inquired about a while ago. After eating some of her rations, along with some sweet fruits she had picked from a prickly-looking bush along the way, she was laying on her back, looking up at the massive underside of the tree. There were so many branches that twisted and turned every which way, forming a maze that challenged her eyes to try to follow. She could see many types of birds flying in and out of nests up in the branches, and little squirrels darting about. As the light began to dim, she was thinking of closing her eyes to go to sleep when she noticed a flickering light off the side of her focus, and then another one further up, and one more closer to her. And then, as if the first ones had awakened the rest of them, the entire tree lit up with countless fireflies, blinking their luminescence in and out. It was incredibly pleasant to watch as the lights fell in and out of sync with clusters around them, which then slowly evolved until every light went on and off in perfect synchrony. The lights blinked faster and faster, reaching a crescendo, and then after 3 long pulses, it stopped. End of the show, she said to herself, smiling, and closed her eyes. The next day, she woke up and got ready to hike back to the cabin. She took another look up the maze of branches stretching out from the great giant tree. Last night's show still fresh in her mind. She was thinking she might come back some day and see if she could climb the tree, discover what secrets lay hidden above in this massive life form. Another time. A week passed like that. Every day she ventured farther and farther from the cabin, learning about the dome and, through it, Oldest. Everything seemed to connect back to Oldest in some way, revealing fragments of his long and varied past. One afternoon, she came across a beautiful oasis, nestled amongst rolling sand dunes in a desert area. She found fossils scattered around its edges. They crumbled down when she tried to pick them up. They were diverse forms, a range of mollusks, shark teeth, and various vertebrae, as well as entire skulls of birds and mammals, made out of condensed sand in varying stages of breakdown. She puzzled over them. Not real fossils. They were made of the same sand as the dunes. A good mystery. She sat down beneath some palm trees next to the water and unpacked some supplies. As she ate, she noticed a growing number of large ants that seemed to appear out of nowhere and swept away any crumbs that had fallen from her. Unable to resist, she began purposefully leaving crumbs to watch them tackle small puzzles. She placed obstacles in their path, a small stone to climb over, a gap to bridge, and marveled as they quickly adapted, forming living bridges and ladders with impressive efficiency. Very clever ants, she said, and turned to little Bud, who was waiting patiently a little while off. What can you tell me about these ants? She asked. Query. The little Bud's voice responded in its now familiar, cheerful tone. These ants descend from a species of weaver ants, Oecyphila smalactina, encountered by Oldest during his time building infrastructure in the deserts of southern Peru. He often spent breaks exploring the desert, looking for fossils, and studying ant behavior, fascinated by their collective intelligence and problem-solving skills. As the little Bud spoke, the ants constructed an especially impressive tower from their own bodies, reaching towards a morsel she held suspended above the sand. The ants here have been genetically modified and trained to create sculptures. The ants here have been genetically modified and trained to create sculptures. We're not occupied with general maintenance. The little bird continued. Ah, so that explains the fossils, she said, delighted. Yes, they receive patterns from their queen, which they interpret creatively, producing endless variations. Collaborations like these, blending digital and biological intelligence, are why life under this dome is continuously evolving. Amazing, she said, and got up, dusting off sand from her clothes. She left the rest of her lunch for the ants and got going again. A few days later, she was exploring a range of hills far from the cabin when she found a rather out-of-place looking building. It stood starkly against its surroundings, black and metallic. Every other building she had seen so far had looked so carefully integrated in with their surroundings. This one, however, stood out in an otherworldly way. Circling the structure, she soon found an entrance. Peering inside, she saw that the interior mirrored the smooth, featureless exterior, offering no hints about the building's purpose. She stepped carefully inside, examining the seamless walls in search of any clue. Without warning, the door behind her suddenly slid shut, plunging her into absolute darkness. On the other side, the little bird sprang forward, startled, bumping its body against the sealed door as it urgently sent a request for entry. But the response came immediately and bluntly. No access point available at this location. Inside, she felt herself grow lighter as the room began to accelerate downwards. She wondered nervously where it was taking her, fumbling in the dark for something to hold on to as the lift accelerated downwards. After a while, the acceleration stopped and she glided smoothly. She wished she had counted how long it had accelerated so she could better estimate its speed and distance. It was already pretty far down, heading into the bowels of the station. Then she grew heavier as the lift slowed and then came to a complete stop. With a gentle hum, the door slid open. Darkness outside as well, so she could only make out the outline of the opening. She hesitated briefly, thinking it might not be wise to leave the room to go into an unknown dangers blindly. However, the conspicuous room bringing her down here, she suspected that there might be something out there worth seeing, or if not seeing, then sensing. So she walked over to the edge of the doorway with hands outreached, took careful steps forward, testing the ground cautiously before putting her full weight down on it. After a few hesitant steps, she encountered a sturdy metal handrail. It stretched both left and right. She turned to follow it right, stepping more confidently now with her hand gripping the rail. She soon realized that the walkway arched slightly inwards, as if she was following the curve of a large circle. Although she could not see anything beyond the rail, a sensation of immense emptiness, a vast, deep drop loomed just beyond. Several powerful heartbeats later, after minutes of cautious walking, she began noticing a faint flicker of something off to the edge of her vision. It was too dim to call it a light, more like brief glimmers, barely perceptible. Whenever she looked directly towards the flickers, they vanished. Only in her peripheral vision could she catch their fleeting traces. She She had this uncanny feeling of something massive right next to her. Yet still she saw nothing except the elusive peripheral flashes. She walked along the rails, adjusting to the darkness and relaxing a bit in her steps. The slight curve was barely noticeable, indicating the immense size of the room. A nagging worry crept into her mind. Maybe she should turn back. Then, she was also unsure she could find the doorway again. So she kept walking, very intentionally, not panicking. Finally, she came upon something. A faint glow a bit further away. This one stayed when she looked straight at it. Relief flooded through her, and she hastened her pace. The railing came to an end, cut off where a vertical wall rose out of it. The light she had seen seemed to emanate from the wall, revealing another opening on the opposing side, another lift. She walked over and looked inside. It was similar to what she had rode down in, only bigger and with more texture on the walls. She was going to step in and get out of here, but then she looked behind her and her jaw dropped. What she had thought of as a wall was some kind of viewing screen, and it was displaying a gigantic dark sphere suspended in the voluminous space within the rails. As she stared, mouth still gaping, tendrils streamed out and around the sphere, reaching out towards the dome above, in a majestic dance reminding her of the ethereal dance of the auroras in the magnetosphere of Jupiter and Saturn. So it was true. Oldest had harnessed a black hole within his station, channeling its power and gravity for the world above, in the dome and whatever other godlike projects he was running. Her mind momentarily went blank as she contemplated what she was looking at, how close she was to it. After a while of just watching the hypnotizing flow of the magnetically charged gravitational channels as they danced around the dark spherical void, she slowly backed up into the opening, eyes still fixed on the display until the door closed. She felt heavier as the lift began ascending. Absolutely amazing, she whispered to herself. She remembered the story about a crazy pirate captain who had summoned a kraken sea monster to pull a floating city he had built. This seemed an apt analogy. Standing there, a stone's throw away from the harnessed black hole, it put her admiration of Oldest into even greater heights. What kind of man could do that? Would dare to do that? Still dazed when the door opened up, she felt as if the ride up had been noticeably shorter than the descent, which put her somewhere in the interior of the station into a strikingly ornate hallway. The walls appeared carved from richly colored wood, meticulously detailed with patterns blending motifs from Earth's diverse cultural history. The floors looked like polished stone, laid out in less complex but no less beautiful patterns. Her mother's group of socialites would have despaired at even competing with such elegance. The hallway extended gracefully in both directions, curving out of sight. Letting out a calming breath, she chose a direction and began walking. Soon she came upon an open area off to the side of the hallway. She looked inside. It was bright, spacious room filled with lots of shiny flat tables arranged in precisely ordered rows. Above each table, there was a large black square with multicolored tubes and nozzles protruding out of it. The walls were bright white except for the lowest section, which was a matted black. She walked inside, curious to solve the riddle of the room's purpose. Then a voice spoke from somewhere overhead. "Yes, what would you like?" said the impatient-sounding voice expectantly. "Hello, who is there?" she asked, looking around. "This is Chef, the kitchen AI. Would you like me to make you something? Or are you just going to stand there and fill space and dirty my kitchen?" said the voice accusingly. She ignored the later question and replied, "What can you make?" "Anything," Chef replied, as if stating the obvious. "Give me a challenge." She thought to herself for a moment, then remembered a meal she had once had as a child in one of her mother's lofty parties. She described it in as much detail as she could. "5 minutes," said the voice matter-of-factly. A moment later, one of the tables sprang to life. Arms extended fluidly from its sides, each shaping into utensils. They reached into the tubes above, pulling out different ingredients and swiftly beginning to cut, saute, and blend with impressive precision. She watched in fascination and said, "That is really impressive," she said, not expecting a reply. "Thank you," Jeff responded, now noticeably warmer. "I have combined knowledge of some of the greatest chefs of the early millennia in my program." 5 minutes later, the meal was beautifully plated and presented on an ornate tray with accompanying sides and drinks. "Wow, thank you," she said, as the mouth-watering smell began to fill her senses. She took a bite. "Oh my God," she exclaimed, still chewing. It was the best tasting thing she had ever put into her mouth. "It's wonderful. The best meal I've ever had." "Glad to hear it. I'm here if you care for anything else." Clearly pleased to have had this opportunity to serve its purpose. "Actually, can you make me a..." She listed out a few meals from her best of memories, deciding to take advantage of this opportunity. "And also just surprise me." More tables sprang eagerly into life, each crafting exquisite meals. Soon she had to beg them to stop, her belly stuffed beyond bursting. "Oh, I'm so full," she groaned contentedly. She thanked the chef warmly and gave herself a moment to let her stomach settle before moving on. Further down the hallway, she found another room, similar to the kitchen, different in layout, with warm shades of orange rather than the black. "Hello," she called. "Hello, dear. What can I do for you?" replied a voice that somehow managed to sound both like a kindly old woman and a festive young man at the same time. She could not decide which it sounded more like. "What do you make here?" she asked, guessing at the theme of these rooms. "I can make you anything to do with textiles," came the friendly voice. She glanced down at the worn imitation spacesuit she had gotten from Simon down below in her city. It was made to the last. Even so, it was starting to show signs of wear and tear. Time for something new. "Can you make me something that looks good, but is also practical? A respectable adventurer look," she said, excited to see what an AI tailor of similar skill to the AI chef would produce. She heard some movement, Then a mirror rolled out of a small gap in the wall. The mirror came to a stop in front of her so she could see herself. She seemed different than she remembered. Time and adventure had taken some of her softness away and replaced it with harder definitions. She was not as cute, but she did look more capable somehow. She liked it. Then the mirror changed, and suddenly she was standing half naked in front of it with nothing on but some nondescript underwear. Startled, she looked down. She was still fully clothed. Do you like these? We start on the inner layers and build out. I would show you a few variations to give you some ideas. The voice said as the mirror morphed her into a tight fitting. She saw herself in the underwear, which then got covered by a tight form-fitting blue jumpsuit and a stylish jacket. After a few seconds, she was back in the underwear again, different this time, then dressed in green and blue ensemble topped by a dark coat reaching her thighs. Fitting blue overall, and then a jacket appeared over it. Variations continued rolling by, each lasting just long enough for her to appreciate before swiftly changing. Soon her head spun from the dizzying display of styles. As if sensing her overwhelmedness, the mirror finally returned her reflection to her current clothes. Wow, that was quite something, she said, still seeing clothes rolling through her head. I liked everything you showed me. I was monitoring your pupils as you viewed the outfits. I've made a personalized design based on what you reacted to the strongest, came the voice explaining cheerfully. In the mirror, a new image formed. Underwear first, then pants, shirt, and finally a jacket flowed seamlessly onto her virtual figure. She saw herself looking much improved. The look clearly took inspiration from her current spacesuit, but was refined to perfection. Yes, I love it. 15 minutes and it will be done, announced the voice, with a dramatic edge in its tone. She was excited. New clothes. If the food in the other room was any indication of overall quality, these clothes would be something life-changing. She remembered what an impact her spacesuit had made on her personality, giving her confidence and a sense of belonging to something other than her mother and the self-centered 20th centurions. Bill had also taught her the value of style. Always overdress. It will get you to places otherwise out of reach, he had told her after they had walked into a bar and he was acting all cocky. He had later abandoned her in pursuit of some pretty smoking tail, as she called it. She smiled at the memory. Bill would absolutely go bonkers if he ever made it here. The process was not unlike the kitchen. These tables were around twice the size of the kitchen ones, with tubes, slots, and holes of various shapes and sizes. Each table seemed to have its own distinct palette of colors and textures. After nearly a minute's pause, mechanical arms emerged, gracefully shaping into delicate tools. Threads descended from above, intertwining seamlessly into fabrics being formed layer by layer, printed up from beneath. Every molecule was precisely placed. These clothes were far more than mere fabric. A list of features rolled down the mirror: impact prevention, biomonitoring, temperature control, and the list went on. She couldn't wait to try it on. After a beautiful ballet of weaving and sewing, her new clothes were folded up on the table in front of her. They slid on effortlessly, and they felt so good, giving her body support in all the right places. She bounced around a bit to test the mobility. It felt as if the clothes enhanced her agility, feeling quicker. These are wonderful, thank you. She thanked the cheerful Taylor AI and walked out feeling taller somehow, grinning at the thought of what Bill would say if he saw her now, which gave her a pull of melancholy, missing her friends. She wished she could share this wonderland with them. She imagined this place if the human expansion into the outer planets had gone as planned. The production rooms, always full of activity, they explained the large, wide hallways. They were built to accommodate constant traffic, delivering endless wonders to countless residents. As she continued to explore the corridor and its adjacent rooms, an idea formed. An amazing idea, she thought. 2 rooms later, she found the room that seemed what she was looking for. A mechanical shop room. "Hello?" she called for the AI of the room. "Me, yes, I'm here. How can I help?" A bouncy, amused voice sang out. "I was wondering if you could help me produce a pair of mechanical wings," she asked hopefully. "Ah, is that all?" sang the mechanical AI. "For aesthetic or practical purpose? Do you have a design in mind, or should I just freestyle?" "Shit, I have the design on my ship. I will go and get it," she said. "No need. I spoke with your ship's AI. It gave me the designs," said the sing-song voice. "Interesting design. Gonna be tricky here, though. Looks like it's made for less G than the dome average." "Oh no," she said, already anticipating a but. "But I could help you tweak it some. Adjust the design to here," said the mechanic AI as a holographic display lit up in front of her with the wing design spinning gracefully. The AI began to describe improvements it could add on very excitedly. She tried to keep up, but quickly got lost track. "As long as I can use it to fly around and explore the dome, I will be happy. And look good," she added, thinking that she wanted to impress Oldest when he finally called for her. "Roger that. It'll be ready in the morning. Would you like me to send it to the cabin you're staying in?" asked the sing-song mechanic AI. "You know where I've been staying?" "Yes, your guide told me. He told everyone. He was apparently looking for you everywhere. Seemed very relieved when I told you you were here with me." Okay. Yes. Please send it there," she said, and thought she'd better head back now. If a little bit of Bud had told everything in the dome, that she was here, Oldest was sure to have heard. Maybe he was looking for her also. She thanked the mechanical AI and set off to find her way back to the cabin. A lift took her up to the open dome area where she found the big tree off in the distance. Taking her bearing from that, she walked back to the cabin where she found the little Bud waiting. It seemed relieved to see her again, giving her a friendly little nudge on her new boots. "Good to see you too," she said, and headed to the bed to rest. This had been a pretty epic